There's no noise or disturbance at my end. No?
Okay, fine. We just will start off.
There's no disturbance at my end, right? In noise or
Yes,
anything?
no, it's absolutely clear. Absolutely clear.
Okay, fine. Okay.
It's just taking a minute to live. Hello everyone, this is Pragati Sureka here. Welcome to the Mind Trail session. Today I welcome Mr. Shantanu Duttagupta from Scholastic India, who is going to talk to us how important books are in today's day and age. So over to you, Shantanu, without much ado.
Great. Thanks for the introduction, Pragati, and thank you for having me here tonight, Friday night. A nice end to the week. So, reading. Today you will ask me to talk about reading and how what kind of responses does it elicit in our brains, why it's good for you, and why you aren't doing enough of it, frankly. But before I start off, Pragati, I've got a small exercise and a small experiment I want to do on you. I'd like you and all of those in the audience, if you're listening in carefully, do the same. Close your eyes for about 10 or 12 seconds and concentrate very hard on one of your favorite books or a book that you recently read that you really enjoyed. So in 3, 2, 1.
Great, Shantanu. I'm enjoying being on the other side.
All right, great. So Pragati, tell me the name of the book that you were thinking about, and what did it do to you? What does it do to you?
I actually thought of Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. When every time I think of the book, it just gives me meaning and purpose and the will to just go on and on. So
That's
that's what reading does for me.
and does it trigger some sort of emotions in you? Do you feel happy? Do you feel sad? Do you feel satisfied? Do you feel content? What do you feel?
I feel resilient, and I feel
Resilient.
bubbling with purpose. I actually feel very excited about life and what all are the possibilities. And it's okay, challenges are there, but I can move on. That's what it
Yes,
does
and
for me.
yes, absolutely, and that's fantastic that that you came up with a book that was so clear in your mind, which tells you a couple of things that um, it's your favorite book for a reason, and going back to a book which immediately you remember so quickly tells you just how much of an impact it has on you or had on you, because many times books can be reread and you look at them very differently, and they trigger very different sorts of thoughts and feelings over the years when you reread certain books. So and here's, I've got this very interesting book that I want to show you. It's called The Game of Mirrors. So it's a really cool book, and it's got these wild mirrors inside it,
Wow.
and I mean, besides your screen, what do you see? You see yourself in this, right?
Yes, yes, true.
and you see yourself in very different ways. Now, now that's one of the great things about books and reading is that you end up becoming the character in a book, and you end up seeing things from someone else's perspective, and that's hugely important, hugely important. So essentially, there have been a lot of people through across the ages who have talked about and extolled the virtues of books and reading. But I thought I'd bring about one particular gentleman who I really admire and who I read a lot of. He's a 16th century French essayist slash philosopher slash lots of things. He goes by the name of Michel de Montaigne. And Michel de Montaigne, he loved reading books. He had a personal library, which I believe the room still exists. But one of the great things about what he said about reading was that, he said, I read only to derive pleasure out of. Now, deriving pleasure out of reading is something that somewhere down the line we have lost out, even
I
perhaps.
totally agree, I totally agree. And a lot of times people feel, reading is either just to pass time or with a particular purpose, but they don't realize how much reading fuels our creativity. I remember when I had gone to Vienna, I went to see Freud's house. I just wanted to see somebody who could just change the face of psychology, and so many books he wrote and came up with so many concepts. Shantanu, what stuck me was the amount of books which were there and the way it overlooked a tiny courtyard with a tree there. And I realized books are just absolutely, transformational. I'm in love with books, if I could say that. Like, I'm literally in love with books, I would say. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Here's an interesting fact. Just FYI, I'm a repository of lots of useless facts, but at the same time, they are facts nonetheless. They are fun. Freud, wherever he traveled, he bought a lot of poetry from wherever he traveled. So he particularly bought poetry books to add to his collection, because he felt that poetry is one of the oldest forms of literature, or expressing oneself, before the whole idea of a novel came along, because if you see the great texts of our past, they were essentially, written in a very sing-song way. So, he felt that that was really important, to have poetry, because it spoke of different generations. Yeah. So anyway,
yeah, even from the Vedic times, all our Upanishads or even the Greek tragedies, most of them are in that poetic lilt. You're very true. This is very true.
yes. And in fact, since you brought up some of the ancients, even whether it's ancient Indian history times, or whether it is the ancient Greeks, they all believe very strongly in the idea of stories. Now, the idea of stories is, while it might seem like a very generic thing to say, but I think it's very, very important to attach it along with reading, because everybody likes a good story. Now, even now, at our age, we're adults. If we sit down to listen to a story, even if it's a read aloud, someone doing a read aloud, you'd still get engrossed into it. We think that a read aloud is there only for a parent to do with their child, but in reality, if I start telling you a story, you'll be like, oh, okay, that's interesting, and you will pay attention to it, because we are naturally wired to tell stories and listen to stories. Look at our lives every day. Each one of us right now, over the past 3-4 months, because we are in a pandemic, I'm going to use that example, but in the last few months, we've been telling each other stories. We've been sharing so many of our stories. Even if we look online, all the things that people are expressing themselves with, whether it is Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or Snapchat or whatever, it's all about storytelling. So and herein lies the most important thing: the connection between storytelling and books. Why are books still written? Why are authors still relevant? And why are various literature festivals still, so many of them are there? In fact, there's been a whole smorgasbord of festival that has been kicked off on online of late. It's because, reading books, and when I say reading, I mean actually holding a book in your hand or any other device that you prefer to read. Words trigger an emotional response, and they are a language which you don't find anywhere else in this age of distraction.
I agree totally. I couldn't agree more. And for me,
So, yeah.
every time I read, what happens apart from the book in front of me, I feel I'm time traveling. I sometimes lose in touch with my identity, literally, like especially in a good fiction, you become one with the hero or the heroine, or sometimes even the villain if the villain is interesting enough, and it's not about gender, it's not about age, it's not even about whether it's practical or not. It's just that realm of imagination which just gets triggered off. So
Yes.
one thing I want to ask you, Shantanu, is specifically with mental health, like how can one feel better when one reads books? Like what can one do with books, when it comes to mental health?
Well, I think I think there's so much you can do. I'll start off with something very simple. A few years ago, I had written an article on how one can read more. It was triggered because I found myself starting to feel a little, out of sorts. Then I analyzed that I wasn't reading as much as I was reading a few years ago. And I felt that, oh my God, I need to institute more reading. But because you're traveling, because you're distracted and things like that, and reading requires some work.
Yes, true.
So what I decided was that, okay, and this, you guys, everybody can do this. First and foremost, create a corner in your house or in your bedroom. Invest in a good lamp, a bedside lamp. Create that atmosphere. Get a good bedside lamp, and put some time for reading. Pick a book. It can be any book. It doesn't matter whether it is fiction, whether it's non-fiction, whether it's a romance or a crime drama or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. So it's important to create an environment. That's one. Two, it's also important to be diligent about it, because as I mentioned earlier, reading is a is a activity where you have to put effort. So just case in point, when you're binge watching Netflix, like so many of us do, you're binge watching it for 8 hours because you have to finish a season, right? So it starts one after the other, one after the other. Now what's happening when we are watching anything, and of course this is all proven and there's a lot of scientific knowledge on this, and I'm sure you will know this, is that it's a one-sided affair. Our brain is not really, doesn't have the time to process anything that's coming in, because the brain loves pleasure. So, and it's not got a very it keeps getting distracted. So there's so many things that are happening in front of you, you get distracted. So by the end of it, I know so many people who watch entire shows after shows, and when you ask them, hey, listen, what do you like about that, what do you think about the characterization, everybody's like, I don't know, it was good fun, but no one really gets into it.
Yeah.
In a book, it's the other way around, because in a book, you have to do the work. The words are written for you over there. You have to sit down patiently, read, get your mind to not wander, pay attention to what is being written over there. So it's a two-way affair. It's not just something that is there in front of you that is you're consuming. So that in itself, I believe, triggers vital, some interesting synapses, brain synapses, which encourage, brain development, and it's been also known to delay some serious illnesses like Alzheimer's and things like that. And of course, I mean, there are many other benefits, but specifically, I found that over the years there have been many researches done on how the brain is helped by reading in terms of stress levels. I would suggest all of you all who are watching this to sit down tonight or lie down and pick up book, any book that you want, read silently for 10 minutes. Don't be distracted by anything. Just tell yourself that, no, I have to be in this zone. It's very meditative, and you'll find that you'll be much more relaxed.
I totally agree with you, Shantanu, because when I'm reading, I feel as though it's a zone within me that comes to the forefront. Sometimes what happens is, like you rightly said, when we are watching TV, we feel that we get a headache, and you don't really emotionally connect with the character. Yeah, if it's something you talk about the person, but we are slightly fluid about it. But when you're reading a book, you keep thinking about your characters wrong after you put the book down. And like you spoke about intelligence, your fluid intelligence actually becomes better and better the more you read. And even dementia, and these days, a lot more people are getting dementia, a lot of people are getting Parkinson's and even Alzheimer's. So, your nerves, like somebody had told me, I had once had a small minor accident. And what the person told me, walk every day for 1 hour and read for 1 hour a day. You're going to be fine. And actually, what the doctor told me worked wonders, because he said your brain, can regenerate itself. And reading is one of the tools through which your brain never gets old. Chronologically, you're getting older, but mentally, you are actually getting younger, more sharpened with the times, and definitely it works.
Yeah, in fact, I have a lot of friends and a few authors and colleagues who often tell me that I'm not my age and I'm an 8-year-old. I behave like an 8-year-old, which doesn't mean that I throw tantrums or anything like that. But it's just it's because I think that when you read widely and you don't read with any sort of bias, I believe that in order for reading to be effective and learning to be effective, you have to be sort of genre agnostic.
I totally agree, because when I was growing up, I read everything from Famous Fives to Robin Cook's, which were like medical books, to, a lot of these Louis L'Amour's, which was westerns. I don't know why I was reading those, to Somerset Maughams. So, because I read so widely, now if I have to read on any topic, it just doesn't seem too much. So while
Yes.
everybody is busy researching on COVID, for me, it's like, okay, it's just something difficult that one has to deal with, but doesn't have to suck in all your energy. There's a lot more interesting reading out there which I could do, and every time I read, I forget about the age I am in. I have to share my Harry Potter story with you. When Harry Potter
Please.
came out, I did not like wizards, like all this, any books of that genre did not interest me. Books about children, I was not interested. My little one had just been born, she was 1 year old. But after I read the first book, I was hooked. And do you remember there was one book which they launched at 10 o'clock at night? There was one in the series, the third one. I actually remember standing in line, waiting for the book and picking it up then and there. So it hooked me. It wasn't a genre which I would have picked up for myself. I was probably 20 years above the average age of the Harry Potter reader. But it just didn't matter. The writing gripped me like nothing else.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought about that example, because one of the great things about children and books is that we think that oh, this book is not meant for you, so you should not read it. But the fact is that children, and over the past over a decade now that I've been working in children's publishing, is one thing that I've learned and I've seen and observed is that children are great self-censors.
Yeah.
So they have this natural censorship mechanism. If they don't like something, they'll just leave it and they'll move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And the problem is that we as adults are not able to learn from that. It's so simple, isn't it? That all this pandemic and all of these things are troubling me so much, and I'm reading so much about it. But yet, like some drug, I'm constantly reading about it. But actually, the reality is that you just have to stop reading about it and move
Exactly.
on.
True.
So it's there's so much of learning that is there. There's this. How are we doing on time? Okay, we have some time. There's this really amazing story. Okay, this is great author, Neil Gaiman. He's one of my favorite authors. I'm sure you know who he is. Many years ago, he went to a sci-fi convention in China.
Okay.
And he went there, and he was amazed to see that he had never been to China before. He's like, wow, I mean, there is a lot of great things happening over here. And he was invited to a sci-fi convention, and he happened to be talking to one of the members who was organizing the organizing committee of the sci-fi convention. And he's like, how come all of a sudden you have decided to have a sci-fi convention full of literature and all of those sorts of things, which are, some would say, not exactly very in line with their culture, right, of literature and things like that. But this gentleman told Neil Gaiman that a few years ago, we traveled to Silicon Valley, and we sort of interviewed a lot of people from these tech companies, because there are so many innovations that happen. Because he's like, in China, we were great at manufacturing and remaking things, but we're not really good at creating things. So they went to Silicon Valley. They interviewed a lot of engineers and designers from there, Google, Microsoft, Apple, blah, blah. And they asked them what they read when they were growing up. And the overwhelming majority of what those people's reading habits were science fiction and fantasy, because they said that science fiction and fantasy opened up their minds and broadened their imagination. So this gentleman said that, we felt that maybe if we start doing science fiction, fantasy, and doing more books and conventions around it, we would also be able to innovate like that. Wow, that's an amazing thing. So that's what it does, to your mind.
Actually, this is so pertinent. The unachievable becomes achievable with books, where your mind opens up. And because they say, most of us die with more than 90% of our potential unexplored. And reading actually helps you delve deep into yourself and, take out that potential. It definitely does happen with me. I mean, how does reading affect you personally? Like, how has it helped you grow as an individual?
Well, it is everything. Everything that I have. A lot of people measure success very differently, and most people measure success perhaps through how much money you earn, or what position you are in. But I remember when I was very young, when I was about 19 or 20, I went through certain typical situations that a 20-year-old goes through. Oh no, what's going to happen in the future? I don't know. But during that course of 3 or 4 or 5 years, maybe, I think I might have read, and I'm not kidding, or neither am I boasting, I think I might have read upwards of about 1,000 to 1,200 books.
Wow.
And that was, it was anything and everything that I got. Because I realized that a lot of company that I was keeping was very well read, and I felt very left behind. So I just read, and I just started falling in love with it. And to this day, and I'm very fortunate to be working in a job that I really enjoy, because it's my passion. So I don't look at it as work. I lay all my whatever success, or whatever you want to call it, or being, personality, character, to reading. To this day, in fact, this microphone and this video that we are doing is on a pile of books. Okay. I don't have a tripod, but I have a pile of books. So that's what I put it on. So that's I definitely feel that obviously over the years your reading habits change. These days I read a lot of philosophy. I read a lot of Stoic philosophy. Very helpful in times like these. But just naturally happened. But yeah, I mean, I think empathy is what is the ultimate thing that reading gives you. The ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, and that self-awareness that it creates, hopefully, when you read, is what really makes it. Because think about it, in Harry Potter, over the years, I kind of feel bad for Voldemort as well now. Earlier I didn't. And I now look at Voldemort in a very different light. Okay. And I look at Dumbledore in a very different light. Because my gosh, what a manipulative man. And manipulating children.
We differ here. I'm sorry. I'm not going to bash up Dumbledore. live on Facebook. I'm just not going to go there. Let's keep it for another time because I personally believe that the core of every human being is very, very good. When
Yeah.
we don't tap it, that's when we get drawn to the dark side, for want of a better word. And challenges and trying circumstances, like when Voldemort was Tom Riddle, of course, a lot of bad things happened. But again, we go to Viktor Frankl. Really bad things happened to him.
Oh yeah.
And with bad things, there are actually opportunities for growth. And I feel when there's suffering and pain, some creativity in you gets generated. Because without
Yes.
suffering, without pain, one is slightly complacent, binge watching Netflix, comfort eating, and not thinking beyond the blah blah in life. I wouldn't go there. But when I always feel that any kind of pain or an adverse situation is an opportunity to develop ourselves and actually see where we could be stronger than where we could start off. And
Yes.
with Dumbledore, I have always associated somebody who had meaning and purpose. Maybe was
Yeah.
thought he could strategize, but real life, as we also, none of us can strategize,
They
and the
don't. Yeah.
best laid plans go to hell, and the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So I personally feel that, one has to just, now whenever there's a difficult situation, what I personally do is take a pause. Okay, I'm not liking it, and sometimes
Hmm.
I'm finding it very difficult to cope. But what is it trying to teach me? And
Hmm.
sometimes, if there's a good book at hand, I actually look into my library. That's been a passion since I was a young child, with Amar Chitra Katha to
Yeah.
Enid Blyton's. I mean, for me, I feel that's the best wealth one can have. I hope God's grace is there, and I always have like a cabinet full of books. Even now, that one thing that I want to do in these COVID times is definitely buy a book. If nothing else, I would, but once in a while, or reread the ones which I have. There's a different pleasure when you read. People talk of comfort eating, but I believe in the concept of comfort reading.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You go back to the things that you liked. Sometimes it could be just a simple Amachitra Katha as well. It could be
Yes,
anything. It could be PG Woodhouse.
yes,
It could be anything. Some
yes.
there's familiarity. Because depending on the situation that you're in, just one quick example. When you're supposing you're grieving, ideally you would want to read something which has a book which has structure, a good plot, and has a very clearly defined ending.
True.
Because when you're grieving, you don't know what's happening next. So if you read something which has that kind of structure and has a beginning, middle, and end.
That's a very good tip you have given. You remember I was sharing with you once that my daughter, when she had started reading and when she was in the, primary section, she said, "Mama, I like to read books in the first person, not in the third person." And I thought about it. I have always been an avid reader, and I have never thought of books in the first person or third person. But this brings me back to how children also can empathize. When somebody talks in the first person, they feel as if the person is talking to them and about themselves. And these days, what has happened, I think, why people have stopped reading is because they want to portray an image.
Yeah,
Many book clubs have been a part of, but majority of the readers, I see, they'll go online, they'll read the synopsis and show
yeah,
that they are reading, than
yeah.
actually reading. But till you don't actually read, you don't really get what the book is all about.
No, you don't.
Ending thoughts, Shantanu?
Ending thoughts. Well, I
We have
I
about
just, how long do we have? 30 seconds.
2 minutes.
Oh, we have 2 minutes. Okay,
No, we
all
have
right.
two
Okay,
minutes.
okay, all right. No, I think that it's been great talking to you, and I do hope that all of you all who are watching, you do take some time out. Pamper yourself a little bit. Buy a nice book, even if it's something very simple, even if it's a picture book. Whatever. Pamper yourself. Buy a book. Don't read a book as if from the perspective of trying to learn something from it or gain something out of it. Just read for the pure joy of reading it. So that's what my advice would be. And one recommendation that I can recommend to some of our adult audience, I don't know if there are younger people watching, but even if you're young, in your late teens or your early 20s, I highly recommend the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius
Marcus.
was a great Roman king, and he was basically, the Meditations is not a book. He didn't intend to write this as a book. He used to, these are his notes, his journals. It's like his diary, which has survived 2,000-3,000 years, and it's the diary of a man who came back from battle every night, because he fought on the Germanic hordes for 18 years, protecting Rome. And he came back to his tent and he would write these little notes to himself and observations about life.
So thank you, Shantanu. That was very informative. So I guess we can even call him the father of journaling, though he is not known
Yes,
as
yes.
such, but
No,
definitely,
absolutely. We must. He is.
that is a valuable fact that I have picked up. I did not know about that. Now I have found the father of journaling. So it's
Great.
been lovely chatting with you. Thank you for sharing your insight, and thank you everyone who's watching us. See you tomorrow at 12 o'clock on the Cornash page, where we talk about psychological well-being. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.